Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on behalf of a unique partnership with Alaska Public Media on this last day of March 2022. It's the 31st, and already tomorrow, April 1st. Where does the time go? Well, checking on any additional information you might like that I provide in this broadcast, you can go to weather.gov. And you'll come up to an interactive map showing the continental U.S. with Alaska and Hawaii in the lower left. It's a point-and-click map. You can get forecast watches, warnings, advisories, and all sorts of other type of weather and hydrologic information from anywhere across the country. Well, the weather story was yesterday we were talking about the potential for a pretty decent display of the northern lights. Well, what happened, we only saw a G1 class magnetic storm with a planetary K index of 5 instead of the forecast G3 with a KP index of 7. As a result, the aurora did not get as far south as we were hoping. They did see it as far south as areas like North Dakota, Montana, down into northern Wyoming. Here, areas central northern parts of the state saw a pretty good display. I spoke with a buddy up near the entrance there of Denali Park, and they saw it up that way. Enhanced auroras will still be possible with any clear skies here coming up through the weekend as the solar activity is elevated. Don't anticipate any major displays, but still worth watching if you have clear skies in your area. And looking ahead, we have the outlook for the month of April coming up, and it looks like our spring warm-up will be delayed. We're going to have a bit of a cooler start, at least to the beginning of April. And that also could influence here how the river breakup is going to unfold, and as a result, we've kind of revised that outlook too. But here is a recap from last night. So if you look on the left side of your screen, you'll see the two areas where the bar graph has red. That is where the KP index hit 5, which is minor storm level. Didn't get up to 7, because if it did, you'd been able to see the northern lights quite distinctly, even in Anchorage, where skies were clear last night, because I checked several times. But this was about the height of the display, and it was around just before 11 p.m. You can see the enhanced areas of yellow there on your right where the aurora was occurring. That's why areas down along the Canadian border there in the northern U.S. did see some displays of the northern lights. But as we went in toward and past midnight, the display kind of fizzled. So the maximum storm, which was a class 1 storm, not a very strong one, happened early in the night, and that was about it. Well, looking ahead now to the temperature outlook for the month of April, we are anticipating temperatures to average below normal, a little below normal across the southern portion of the state, including the Panhandle, and then maybe averaging a little above normal there along the northwest Arctic coast, including the west side there of the North Slope. And precipitation amounts near normal across most of the state, maybe a little above normal in the southern Panhandle, and then there across northwestern parts of the state, including the Seward Peninsula. But it's not a really strong signature for anything way above normal. Now, how could that influence the river breakup? Well, we have high snowpack across the state, statewide. We are observing near normal river ice thicknesses, but when we get a cool early April, that's going to delay the spring warm-up, and we need kind of a progressive spring warm-up to help parse out the melting of the ice and snow. So this is going to certainly favor an increased threat of snowmelt flooding for most of the state if we end up having this delayed spring warm-up, which looks to be likely here, especially as the first week or two of April is going to average on the cool side, and I'll show you that toward the end of the show. But right now, we still have just the warning there, the blizzard warning for the ground blizzard conditions there, Point Hope up to Wayne right there in the northwest Arctic coast. And then we have, and that is in effect until midnight Friday night. And then we have through early Saturday morning. Wind advisories for the central interior along the Yukon River, including Bettles down through Tanana, where winds could gust as high as 40 to 50 miles an hour, especially in the hills from the northeast. And looking at Wainwright this afternoon, mid-afternoon, ground blizzard conditions, 17 below. You can see the reduced visibility there. And then Shaktoolik there on the east side of Norton Sound. The hilltops have been very windy. Some of the hilltops around there have seen wind gusts up around 60, 70 miles an hour. The temperature, though, there at 17 degrees. And then as we go down into the central interior, where the winds will be building across that area, including Lake Minchumina, 23 degrees is the current temperature there in the mid-afternoon. And then King Salmon, overcast skies, 37 degrees. That low pressure that's going to be approaching Kodiak Island will cross Kodiak Island and pass just south of King Salmon. Yesterday, King Salmon and Nanak had the high temperature for the state of 48 degrees. And looking at the satellite imagery, we have the curl in the clouds pulling back toward Kodiak Island. The low pressure center still southeast of Kodiak Island, but it will retrograde westward and bring additional precipitation there, especially to the coastal mountains, and then pulling back and weakening as it crosses the southeast corner of the Bering. And we also expect another disturbance to be lifting out of the North Pacific well south off the map, off the satellite imagery right now of the Alaska Peninsula, and that'll come up into the lower central Gulf on Saturday. But in the meantime, there's that low this afternoon down around 980 millibars. Coldest air is still up there across the Alcan border along the east-northeast portion of the state and North Slope, with that high-pressure ridge nudging in from off the Arctic Ocean into northwest Canada. A couple of other weaker lows back out through the Bering and just north of the central Aleutians, not all that strong, just keeping some snow showers and mixed rain snow showers going there. But as we go through tonight, the strongest winds will be set up across the central interior back to the northwest coast. And we'll see that low begin to approach Kodiak Island as we get into early on Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, it'll be pulling back westward across the northern half of the Alaska Peninsula, with a frontal system lifting north, the occluded front weakening up along the Gulf Coast. And then as we go into Saturday, another low lifts out of the North Pacific and situates itself there in the central portion of the lower Gulf. And we'll just keep some precipitation going, mainly in the form of rain along the immediate coast, but some snow in the coastal mountains. There could be a little bit of patchy light snow or flurries there up through the Yukon Valley by Saturday. Otherwise, the Bering just has some scattered snow showers with a weak low pressure extending from Bristol Bay back up toward the central portions there of the Bering. Low temperatures come Friday morning will generally be above freezing through the Panhandle, a bit below freezing as you get Anchorage northward through the interior there of the south central areas. Temperatures, though, Friday afternoon still getting back up into the 40s surrounding Cook Inlet down through Kodiak Island. Also 40s again there through much of the Panhandle. And for Saturday morning lows, the interior Copper River Basin, 17 there at Glen Ellen, 7 above at McGrath, but everybody else generally 20s to lower 30s. South Central and mid-30s across the Panhandle. Saturday afternoon temperatures will manage to get back up into the 40s throughout much of the region, with the exception of the upper Copper River Basin, and then on the other side of the Alaska Range, where McGrath coming in there at 28. Coldest temperatures will remain in the north along the North Slope, Arctic coast, also areas around Arctic Village down through Fort Yukon. Could be as cold as 25 below there at Arctic Village as the forecast low for Friday morning. Friday afternoon, temperatures remain sub-zero along the North Slope and Arctic coast. Teens and 20s there, the eastern portion along the Alcan border of the Yukon River. And temperatures do cool a little bit as you go down through the length of the Yukon River, with lows Saturday morning, again, some 20s below possible along the Arctic coast, especially eastern Brooks Range down toward Arctic Village there. And temperatures on Saturday afternoon will cool back below freezing even there at Fairbanks, as we do anticipate a little colder and drier air there in place across the northern parts of the state. And for the interior southwest, temperatures, some areas could be in the single digits as you get up toward McGrath, even a little below zero around Galena. But the interior still near or a little above freezing. Bethel, Antioch could be 44 or so there at King Salmon. and 43 at Kodiak. Saturday morning lows, teens for the interior. Temperatures near or a bit above freezing, extending out from Kodiak Island through the Alaska Peninsula and as well as through the Aleutian chain. And then Saturday afternoon, temperatures getting back up above freezing in at least the lower portion of the Kuskokwim Basin and extending down along the Alaska Peninsula. So the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, April 6th through the 10th, is calling for temperatures to be near or below normal in the state, centered on areas of the Panhandle and especially the west and northwestern portions of the state, from Bethel toward Nome, Kotzebue, Utqiagvik, and precipitation may average a little bit above normal, especially across the central interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Let's check out now your aviation weather for Friday into Saturday if you are planning a flight. The main weather feature starting out Friday morning will be an area low pressure just east of Kodiak Island in the western Gulf. That's going to retrograde westward, crossing the northern half of the Alaska Peninsula as we get into later Friday and then emerging out into the southeast Bering, Bristol Bay area as we go through Saturday. And later on in the weekend, yet another low will kind of spin up out of the North Pacific up into the lower central Gulf. Meanwhile, we expect IFR conditions to continue Friday morning along the Arctic coast, areas of the Panhandle pretty widespread, and along the southwest coast, lower Kuskokwim Delta, including the Bering side of the Alaska Peninsula. For Friday afternoon, IFR conditions will continue there along the Arctic coast, as well as along the Gulf Coast, the intercoastal mountains of the Panhandle, west side of Cook Inlet, and also there in the southeast Bering. By Saturday morning, some pockets of IFR may spread a little further north along and just south of the Alaska Range, also up there toward east central areas, but we still see rather widespread IFR conditions along the Arctic coast and North Slope. Also continuing along an extensive line there of the Gulf Coast back in, again, through portions of the Bering side of the Alaska Peninsula on up into all the way northwestward toward St. Matthew. Saturday afternoon should see some improvement a little bit there up along the North Slope, still areas of IFR along the northwest Arctic coast. Pockets perhaps near Whittier, and then also along the intercoastal mountains and the northern Panhandle around Chilkoot and White Passes. Anaktuvik Pass, Friday we'll see VFR conditions, as will Adigan Pass. Further south and west, look for MVFR conditions to become IFR at Lake Clark and Merrill there on the west side of the Alaska Range. Rainy Pass will also see MVFR conditions become IFR. And Windy Pass will see VFR become MVFR there in the mid-Alaska Range, as will Isabel Pass working a little more eastward, VFR to MVFR, and then Mentasta Pass should generally hold onto MVFR conditions there in the eastern Alaska Range. Further south and west, Tanita Pass will generally see MVFR conditions on Friday with IFR conditions a little more toward the east-southeast there of the east entrance. And then Portage Pass, we'll generally see IFR conditions along the east entrance, Prince William Sound, but certainly the eastern half of the pass will become IFR as we go through the day Friday, and then Chilkoot and White in the northern Panhandle will see IFR conditions throughout Friday. Quick check of freezing levels. We see the surface freezing line running along the inner channels of the Panhandle along the northern Gulf Coast across the southern Kenai into the southwest, re-looping around the Alaska Peninsula and then back up into the central Bering Sea. A little pocket of 2,000-foot freezing levels aloft there west of the Alaska Range in the southwest interior, as well as along areas around Craig southwestward through Haida Gwaii. And then the best chance for any moderate icing will happen along at least portions of the Panhandle, the outer coastal half, as well as along the eastern Kenai, entrance of Cook Inlet, eastern Kodiak Island, and near Shelikof Strait, generally between 5 and 12,000 feet. And jet stream upper level winds will be strongest at 30,000 feet. Along and south of the Aleutian chain, especially the central Aleutians, we have a jet max upwards to 155 knots at 30,000 feet. We bring it down closer to mid-levels, 9,000 feet. We see a low circulation there between Kodiak Island and the northern half of the Alaska Peninsula, counterclockwise circulation there. We also see easterly winds to 35 knots across the northwest portion of the state, and then generally west winds across the central Aleutians to 35 knots. Bringing it down to 3,000 feet, that low pressure circulation continues across the northern half of the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island with winds as high as 45 knots there, lower Cook Inlet. Also along the Arctic coast, 40 to 50 knot winds at 3,000 feet. That'll lend toward turbulence and some blowing and drifting snow. And we can see the best areas for turbulence on Friday will be south side of the Brooks Range to the middle Yukon River, surface to 4,000 feet. A broad area across the southwest, extending through the Kenai along the northern Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, surface to 5,000, surface to 6,000 feet. And then out across parts of the Aleutians between the surface and 4,000 feet.
Hi Stargazers, Trace here. Happy Global Astronomy Month. April is a great time to see Earth shine. You already know the moon doesn't shine, it's reflecting light from the sun. But when things line up just right, reflected light from the Earth illuminates the moon. It's called Earth shine, and it makes the moon look like a beautiful orb suspended in the sky. Early in the week, Earth shine will be visible before sunrise during a conjunction with Venus, Mars, and Saturn. I mentioned it last week. Then by April 4th and 5th, Earth shine will be on full display just after sunset. The amount of light reflected by celestial bodies is called albedo. Morning star Venus reflects 75% of the light that hits its toxic clouds. The moon only 12%. Earth's landscape produces different albedos. Snow's albedo is 84, while forests are only 14. On average, Earth's albedo is about 30. Go see the moon bathed in Earth light and keep looking up.
Ever been to the beach and noticed litter like plastic bottles or foam takeout containers on the sand? Or maybe you've been to a river or bay where there's a bag or a car tire stuck in the mud on the shore, or a bunch of deflated balloons that say happy birthday floating in the water? All of that junk in the water or on the shoreline is considered marine debris. It's anything solid and man-made in the ocean or Great Lakes that is not supposed to be there. And anything people use every day can become marine debris if they don't dispose of it properly. And I mean anything. The most common items we find when we do shoreline cleanups are plastics. But we also find rubber, cloth, glass, metal, and paper litter. Sometimes the debris is so tiny, like a plastic microbead from your face wash, that you can barely see it in the water. Marine debris is more than just trash in the ocean. Sometimes fishers lose their gear like fishing traps, nets, or fishing line, and it continues to drift through the water, catching animals for a long time. We call that derelict fishing gear, and it's marine debris. Have you ever seen an old boat left behind on a shoreline? Abandoned and derelict vessels are also marine debris. So let's review. Anything we use every day can become marine debris if we don't dispose of it properly or if it goes into the water by accident. Marine debris can be very small or can be very big, and anything in between. But most importantly, marine debris is one of the biggest pollution problems facing the world's oceans and waterways today.
How does marine debris impact the ocean, animals, and me? Would you want to swim at a beach littered with trash? Of course not. And the animals who live in the ocean don't either. The difference is, they don't have a choice. Marine species often get tangled in debris, from fishing nets to six-pack rings. If they get caught, they could get injured or even die. And even if they don't get entangled, many animals mistake plastic debris for food and eat it. This fills their stomach with junk they can't digest. Debris can also damage important habitats, like coral reefs, by breaking or smothering them. Corals serve as the base of the marine ecosystem, and impacts here can be felt all the way to you and me. Plus, plastics have harmful chemicals in them. Fish eat plastic, we eat fish. The question is, can those chemicals harm us? Marine debris also hurts the economy. It costs a lot of money to clean up, and people don't want to go to dirty beaches. Boats and ships could run into large pieces of debris too, or get their propellers tangled. We need the ocean and everything in it, and the ocean needs us to keep it free of debris. What can we do about marine debris?
A lot of the trash that's in our ocean is plastic.
And that marine debris is hurting our environment, economy, and health.
The problem will only get worse.
Unless we change the way we consume and dispose of products. There are solutions,
And together, we can prevent litter from ending up in the ocean. Some people might say,
well, I'm just one person, so I can't make a difference.
but that's just not true.
If each person who creates trash, and that's just about everyone, took action, it would add up to a whole lot of change.
So what can we do?
Well, the ultimate solution is prevention. And we need to keep that as our highest priority.
We can reduce, reuse, and recycle to keep debris out of the ocean in the first place.
You can bring your own shopping bag, drink out of a reusable bottle, and participate in things like a shoreline cleanup.
Join a group cleaning up the beach or grab some friends and clean up your street. It's easy.
Be more conscious of how many disposable plastic items you're using. And if you do,
Where are you putting it? In the trash can? Whoops. Or in the recycling bin?
so here's the challenge. The next time you finish using a throwaway item, a bag, a bottle, or utensil, answer the question, where is this going? Because ultimately, when you throw stuff away, there really is no away. It has to go somewhere.
So keep asking yourself this important question.
How will you keep your trash from becoming marine debris?
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back, and it's time now to conclude the show with the marine weather segment and looking at the sea ice edge. It's really beginning to break up there now along the southwest coast, and we anticipate this trend to continue even though temperatures are seasonable for this time of year. Not especially warm, but additional melting will occur along the ice edge, and winds are going to kind of come back around a little more, develop a little more of a northeasterly component as we head into the early weekend. But looking at what we have in terms of just the winds there across the panhandle and through the inner channels, winds will be 20 to 25 knots, gusts up to 35 knot gales. Petersburg on up through Lynn Canal. Waves generally 3 to 5 feet. The outer coast of the Gulf, look for south winds 15 to as high as 25 knots off of Craig, and waves generally running right around 12 to 14 feet. For Saturday, winds will continue out of the southeast across the inner channels, gusting as high as 40 knots there around Petersburg. Waves again in the 3 to perhaps 6 foot range. And across the outer coast, look for 30 to 35 knot gales out of the south-southeast, and waves generally running from 12 feet Yakutat westward to upwards to 15 to 16 feet, especially south of Sitka. Across the northwest Gulf, we're going to have an area of low pressure passing across, especially the lower half of Kodiak Island later Friday. Winds ahead of that will be out of the east-northeast to 40 knots there, especially at the entrance of Cook Inlet. Easterly winds to 20 knots, Prince William Sound. Waves could be as high as 15 to 18 feet, especially there northeast of Kodiak. And then on Saturday, winds turn more to the northeast off of the Kenai coast, 25 knots. Look for north to northeast winds around 20 knots, lower Cook Inlet with waves there as much as 6 feet. Across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, we see low pressure circulation, the counterclockwise circulation right around Kodiak Island. Northeast winds to 40 knot gales there through Shelikof Strait. Turning more north and northwesterly on the Bering side, 20 to 30 knots with waves there of 4 to 5 feet. For Saturday, we'll see winds generally out of the northeast around 15 knots around Kodiak Island. a little more mixed as you get out there toward the Bering side of the Alaska Peninsula. Bristol Bay easterly 20 knots, but turning westerly there north of Cold Bay with waves about 3 to 5 feet. The Aleutian chain will see winds becoming westerly across most of that area on Friday, with winds generally in the 20 to 25 knot range, waves 12 to 14 feet on the North Pacific side, and generally 6 to 8 feet on the Bering side. And then for Saturday, look for generally westerly winds to continue on the order of 20 to 30 knots, the central and eastern Aleutians, but picking up to 35 knot gales west of Adak. And across the west and southwest coast, over the ice, winds will be out of the northeast as high as 30 knots through Norton Sound, coming down and turning more northerly there along the western end of the ice at 15 knots. And then for Saturday, we'll continue to see northeasterly winds generally in the 15 to 20 knot range throughout the ice. And waves as you get south of St. George, maybe around 4 or 5 feet. The Arctic coast winds will continue around 25 to 30 knots, extending down through the lower Chukchi Sea. Look for generally east-northeast winds, 25 to 30 knots. And then for Saturday, winds will be a little lighter there along the Arctic coast from what they have been the past week. 15 to 20 knots, Kaktovik, westward through Utqiagvik, and then look for winds anywhere as high as 35 knot, or I should say 35 knot winds there along Cape Lisburne and Point Hope. And then decelerating to around 20 to 25 knots through the Bering Strait and the north side of St. Lawrence Island. Late this Thursday night into early Friday morning, low pressure will be approaching the coastline there of Kodiak Island. This feature will work its way westward across the northern half of the Alaska Peninsula during the day on Friday and begin to weaken. It'll push, though, a frontal system on up to along the coastal areas of the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, and that will help increase some of the winds there across the inner channels on Friday. And then for Saturday, another low emerges from the North Gulf and sets up through the lower central portion of the Gulf for Saturday afternoon, and that will keep precipitation and breezy conditions going there throughout the Gulf. Also, continuation of some rather breezy conditions on the south side of the Brooks Range up through the northwest Arctic coast with some areas of blowing snow continuing. That does it for our show tonight. Thank you for watching, and join me again tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.